Alright, greetings gamers. So this is going to be a walkthrough of Melee DPS as a learner ToB. So it's going to be very beginner. I'm wearing beginner gear, and this is what I expect most learners to have at the minimum. Obviously not a max K, but you get the idea. I'm going to actually reset my tent whip, just in case. Because I'm scared it'll break up. I have 4 whips, what the hell? So, I pre-pot right there, as you can see. I'm using Preserve. I'm not using any Divine Potions because I'm taking this as a learner. I'm calling Melee DPS. And I'm going to go over a bit of detail, not too much, but just enough detail to give everyone an example. So, for Maiden, essentially what you want to do as a Melee DPS is you just walk in, pray Mage, always be praying Mage, hammer twice, and then just Bloat pipe. Quite simple. Whoop, that was very embarrassing. No way, this guy just arc glide, dude. Ugh, boy. Now a nice habit too, if you can, you should be barraging the blood spawns or having your teammates ice barrage the blood spawns, and you want to kill them. They're extremely annoying to deal with, and I mean I think I spawned a lot of these because of my error. As a DPSer, you're also going to be responsible for killing 2 of these crabs. So if you're a North DPS, you're going to be killing N1 and N2. If you're South DPS, you're going to be killing only S1. Now, I'm going to want to kill everything because this is just annoying. And this guy might die. This guy an Iron Man, dude? He is an Iron Man. So I needed this crab here. My teammate should have froze it. But I'm still going to freeze it. This is brutal, dude. What the hell? He froze this one way too early. It's not part of the clump, so I'm going to kill it. Now that I'm going to start meleeing here, I think it's nicer to melee at the end. It's personal preference if you want to keep blow piping. Blow pipe is still really good DPS. And you could also save Zara scales if you don't blow pipe, so... I'm gonna actually get this bomb. I might need it. Oh, shit. Okay, so that was Maiden. Very easy. Mostly your teammate does most of the work. You just want to kill the blood spawns, kill the ones that are not part of the clump for the Maiden crabs, and DPS Maiden. And essentially, the crabs spawn 3 times at 30% health, 50% health, and 70% health. But as a DPSer, you shouldn't worry about that too much. You should just focus on killing. For Bloat, it's a little bit more fishy or tricky. You can wear your salve. You also have to make sure you have an inventory space for your Seahali. You could drop it outside over there if you want for your food. Or if you drop it in the room, just make sure you don't drop it on like the one next to the pillar. Make sure you drop it a bit further because people might accidentally pick it up. And I mean, if you're a main, it's probably not a big deal. They can just give it back to you. But if you're an iron, they might not. So I usually start with one Seahali, whip around 3 times, and then Seahali again. You could get a 4th hit if you're early, but it's something nicer to just be conservative. One nice trick too is if you look at a Bloat's head, he'll turn his head a little bit, and that means you have 5 ticks to run away. I'll try to show you next rotation. And that's a very good visual cue you can use to be able to know when you have to run away. I know most people usually tell you to whip 5 times or 6 times, and that does work. It just varies significantly depending on how fast you get to Bloat. Just got under server lag from 416. Now you'll know when Bloat stops because he'll stop moving and his NPC indicator will stay still, but he'll move like that. So now I'm going to look at Bloat's head. So if I look at his head, he's going to move. When he moves his head, that's when I run away. So right now, I'm going to run away. And see, I'm always on tick if I do it that way. And that ensures I get the most amount of damage. I like to see Halley on entry as well because there's a chance that you save a tick because a Seahali can attack 1 tile further than the whip. So there's a 50% chance you could save a tick in that aspect. And it deals a lot of damage on Bloat. Make sure your Seahali's on slash also. If you're doing corp, it might be on stab, so that could affect you. Go over here, Seahali once. I had to commit to that. Sorry. Usually I wouldn't have done that in a... Usually you wouldn't do that as a learner, but there was a chance I could save time, so I had to do it. Now, when you finish Bloat, you want to drop your salve, like I just did, and buy a stamina from this chest. If you have space and you use some of your food, you can maybe buy a shark, maybe buy a brew. It's up to you. I think it's nicer to just leave your points for after soda set because you have no idea how bad or good soda set could go. But then again, it's personal preference. Now, since I'm meleeing, essentially I'll be only focusing on the melee crabs. A good trick you could use is you can tag the melee crabs with the NPC tag. And you want to kill all of them, all the white ones. Very racist, I know. And you could also tell based on your XP drop if you one-shot them. So you see here I get 12 XP in controlled, so that means I one-shot it. If using something that attacks with strength specifically, you can see 36 strength XP drop. That's if they're separated. It's just a nice visual cue to know that I hit my 12, I can right away ignore it and move on. Now, if you're melee Nilo, you should also be expected to use a stam dose during the waves. You can drink the stam dose anytime when you feel like you need it, so I'm just going to sip it right now. Because you do run a lot. Now, also as a meleeer, you can help out in the other roles. So, if you have nothing to attack, you can help out. In priority, you should help out mage first, and then afterwards range. Now, this varies significantly depending on your team. If you're very low KC, I would just recommend to stick to melee and don't worry about helping out. But if, for example, like in this case, I have nothing to do, I'll just try it once, go back to melee. And that's just that's a very good proactive behavior to have. See here, there's a range aggro, I'm gonna help out. But that's more of a little bit more advanced than beginners, but I'm still mentioning it because it's a nice habit to have. See, I knew that one was aggressive, so I sniped it. And you can tell the crab is aggressive because when it spawns into the room, it right away targets someone and attacks them. So in this case, I believe this one's aggressive. So you see it walk in and walk towards us and try to melee your teammates. So your priority should always be the aggressive ones, then afterwards the small crabs, and then lastly the big crabs. And the reason why the big crabs always last is because the big crabs, they split into 2 other crabs, so they add more crabs in the room, And the big crab does the same amount of damage as a small crab on the pillar, which is very interesting. You would think it would be it would do more damage, but for some reason that's not the case. And that's why you want to attack the small ones first. And there's another reason for it too, which is related to stalling, and that's more advanced, so I don't think I'm going to cover that. But that's more if you want to go faster and you want to go for speeds. Now, one downside of meleeing is you see there I took a lot of damage because the crabs can blow up on you after a certain amount of time. So that's why it's a nice habit to melee a crab and run away from the clump like this. Now, if you need health, you can also send blood barrages. That's why you bring your soul runes. Blood barrages are amazing for ToB. Very good. Recommend to spam it whenever you need to. You can also do ice barrages if you're high health. Ice barrages are really useful too. It freezes all the crabs and they do not do damage on the pillars. So it's a good alternative if you're at full health to help out your team. Now that everything's dead, I'm going to just spam blood barrages to get my health back. And eat the full. And I usually like to start the Nilo boss with Sihali. The Nilo boss is always going to start melee. And your priorities should always be to prayer first, then gear, then attack the boss. So in this case I pray range, then I put my range gear and I attack. You can also do pre-switching, but I don't recommend doing that when learning. Mage. Then I see, oh, okay, melee, put my melee gear on. Attack, I'm going to also sneak in a Sihali here. Mage. Range, say I did a pre-switch there. Didn't end up paying out, but I still tried. Pre-switching is really fun too. You should essentially always be predicting that it's not mage because mage is the least amount of damage. So in this case it's mostly random. Maybe I'll predict melee. I didn't get lucky. And now in this case I'll predict melee too because I know that melee is more important. I would have guessed wrong. I didn't do it though, thankfully. I also forgot to pot up. I think we're all irons. We can't even give him scales. That's funny. Alright, for Soda Seg, there's going to be a pattern you're going to stand on. Essentially, I have all the tiles marked, one person on each tile. And you want to split up your hammers. The reason why you split up your hammers is every Soda Seg phase, every Soda Seg's new phase, his defensive stats are reset. So you want to spread out your hammers. So typically, you would have one person spec phases 1 and 2, one person specking phases 2 and 3, one person specking 1 and 3, and the fourth person would just backup spec. And you would also type your hits. So for example, I missed my hammer, so I would type a 0. And Steve-O also missed his hammer, so he typed a 0. And essentially what this says is whoever's backup should probably assist us here and send the hammer spec. Now, one teammate has a BGS, which is not ideal. You should be using a hammer for Soda Seg, but it does make a significant difference, but it's not the end of the world. The BGS is just not as accurate on Soda Seg because he has high defense, and the hammer is just a lot more consistent for Soda Seg. The BGS, however, is really good for the other rooms because you can BGS it down to 0 defense. Now, another trick too is you should always be looking at the person to your diagonal. Now we got a red ball, so we're going to have to hold DD. So you DD in the middle tile over here. Watch out because you're still going to get balls. Perfect. Now here you should maybe save up a bit. You can also pray Redemption if you're not confident with your teammate doing the maze. I used to always pray Redemption. I think it's worth praying it because you might use a bit of prayer, but I just stopped doing it. You just click on the red tiles here. Very easy maze. Essentially, your teammate, the person doing the maze, has all the risks, and if they mess up, you're kind of screwed. I missed again. That's unfortunate. Now you should be looking at the person on the diagonal because you can see here the red ball is going to hit him. And the red ball always splits into a range and a mage ball. And that's the original red ball that's tossed. So you see here, I saw it. I saw a black ball coming here, so I know right away there's either a mage ball coming to me or to Stevo. There was no mage ball to Stevo, so I knew it was coming to me. Now, I'm sorry if I'm not explaining this right. I'm just trying to be very quick. But this gives you information. See here, it splits into two. So if you look at the person on the diagonal, you can tell if you're getting a ball that's through Soda Seg, which you would not be able to see. So I see this one. I'm going to pray in advance. Now, you should be flicking the prayers. And the reason for that is because you can still get melee'd. However, you can still get melee'd, and the melee can do up to 50 damage. But if you pray melee, you half that damage. So you should be praying melee the tick before you get melee'd. So you can flick it. Now, I'm not sure why this, Yibang just PM me to ToB. Now, this is unfortunate I wasn't chosen for the maze. In some of my other guides, I was chosen for the maze, so you can definitely watch those to see what to expect. But essentially what you want to do is you want to get to the third row. So you see first row, second row, third row. When you get to the third row, you want to stop moving there and wait. Give your team a couple, maybe 5 seconds to catch up to you, and then you can send it. Another ball, I'm going to go DD. You can also tick-eat these balls, but I do not recommend trying that when learning. You should wait till you're more comfortable. I saw the black ball coming to me. 2 mage balls. Now if you miss a prayer on the major range ball, it will disable your prayer, and that could be a domino effect where you get more balls coming to you, so it's a very slippery slope. And that's most of the time how you will die. Now for here, I like to have at least 4 restores. 5 is just more comfortable too. I'm going to stick with 4 because this team is slightly decent. And I have an extra point, so I'm going to buy another stam. I'm also going to pre-pop my range potion and drop it. Grab the crumb one. And the reason why I pre-pot the range potion is because you're going to use it for Zarpus, but after Zarpus you won't need it anymore. If you have space, you can still bring it in. If you have a T-bow, for example, you might be T-bowing Verzik on webs, so having a ranged pot could add DPS on there. So for Zarpus, what you want to do is firstly make sure you drop something on the floor so you can equip your Bloat pipe. I also like to put my Bloat pipe on this side of my inventory. It's just personal preference for some reason. I'm kind of lazy. I should have went for that one, but fuck it. You're gonna want to hammer twice. I'm gonna pot as well. It's very useful to pot because if you miss a lot of hammers on Zarpus, it can be very monka. If you look at my raid where I was North Freeze, you would see an example of a monka Zarpus, where it took a really long time to finish it. Now, one thing that's interesting about Zarpus is he attacks in the orb order. So you see he starts with Stevo, which is going to be here. Then he attacks me. And the orb order is on the top left of your screen. Then he goes to Gauss. Then lastly he goes to Kasu. And the cycle repeats itself. Now if you're doing a 4-man, what I'm doing here would work. If you're doing a trio, however, this would not work. What you want to do instead of a trio is instead of going like this pattern that I'm doing now, you would do an extra tile of gap in between like this. And then you would go here. We'll go here and here. So you would use more space. However, you have more space because it's a trio, so it's fine. I'm going to go back here just to buy more space for our team. Whoop, I misclicked. Whoop, I was late there, so I tanked some hit. Now you want to be very careful. You want to watch Zarpus. This is one of the biggest learner killers. I've seen. I've taken so many learners to ToB, and I've seen so. Why is he maging? And I've seen so many learners die here. When you hear screeching, stop attacking. Wear your Melee gear. Switch to Piety. And I would recommend attacking once per cycle, just to get comfortable. And eventually you can build your way up to 2. If you watch my other videos, I do 2 attacks. And one thing to note as well is if you attack when he's looking at you, that happens. You get hit a 70, up to a 70 to 80, I think even, depending on your P1. And he never looks at the same place twice. So that's why I know that this will be safe soon. So I can attack here once. And I know here is going to be safe soon, so I'll attack here once. And this is a very safe way. Now you can also do 2 whip hits in between each. And the reason why you can do 2 is because Zarpus changes directions every 8 ticks, and a whip is a 4-tick attack cycle, so you can do 2 whip hits. And then this is how you would get actually maximum DPS. And I pick up the staff. If you have space, you should always pick up the staff. It's a nice thing to do for your teammate. Now, if you're with normies, it's a good idea to drop like maybe half your brews and a restore on the floor, and only pick that up if you get to P3 Verzik. This way, if you die, your teammates can grab those supplies and maybe carry the raid for you. So definitely beneficial to do so. If you're with a bunch of irons, or if there's no normies on your team, you could just drop 1 food or 1 supply. In this case, I'm second in the orb order, which would not be the case. I usually would do 4 whip hits at the start and then run back, and from then on it's always 2 whip hits. When you pick up the staff, you do spec twice, drop it, and in the next cycle, when you pick up the staff again, you can spec once. Sorry, I had a big hiccup there. Thought I was gonna tank a ball there. Make sure you're praying mage. If you're not praying mage, Verzik can one-shot you, which you do not want happening. I've seen it happen. It's happened to me before. It's just not a pleasant experience, trust me. Just pray mage. Oh, I misclicked my brew there. That's unfortunate. Guess it happens. Pillar's gonna fall, so watch out. When the pillar falls, it's like an inferno. It does up to, I think, 60 damage if you're next to it, so you want to make sure you stand away from it. 2 whip hits, run back. And the timing I like to use is I look at Verzik's legs. When her legs are in a fully done split, that's when I click. If you feel like you're late or you're too slow, you can whip once and then run back. That's fine too. That's actually better doing that than to tank a hit. If you're using a whip, you have a 2-tick clearance in terms of when you attack her twice. So that's still quite a lot of time. So if you feel like you're more than 2 ticks late, you can just run away. If you're siphoning it, you only have a 1-tick clearance, so you can buy 1 tick of mistakes. Now when P2 starts, I like to pray range. You don't have to pray range. You can not pray defensive prayers, but I think it's a good idea to pray range. I'm also going to show you the Veni Walk. Now when crabs spawn, you want to try to pop them. For crabs, it's a little tricky. You want to do your best. The way you pop them is you run close to it and then you run away. However, that is not always easy to do. You can also have a teammate freeze them if you're with learners or experienced people. Now to attack Verzik, you do this is called the Veni Walk. So you do little V's. See, I'm making little V's. And I only click attack when I see Verzik move. Like this. It's a very simple cycle to get into. It's a 4-tick cycle. If you're struggling with this, there is a P2 trainer you can follow. I think it's on GitHub. And someone basically programmed like a simulator for P2. And you can use that to practice. However, one way you can practice too is on worms. You can use a melee weapon on worms in the Konar dungeon. And this purple crab that he tossed to me does damage if it hits you, so make sure you run away from it. And you have to pop it with poison. So you see here I poisoned it basically with a tent whip, and if you poison it, it basically instantly dies. So that's how you kill it. Now this guy should have been praying range there because it would have half this damage from the cabbage. When 35% health spawns, starts, he's gonna spawn red crabs. That's your cue to switch to Prey Mage, and as such, the cabbages are not gonna deal full damage to you. It's also a good habit to get into to always save up the full. I think if you save up, like ideally as a learner, the only time you should die is if you have no supplies in your inventory. That means you did good, in my opinion, because you got as far as you can. And essentially, when Verzik spawns red crabs, she does 7 basic attacks, and then she spawns more red crabs. So you could count, like, what, 1, 2. But however, if you're learning, I wouldn't recommend counting. It's 4, 5, 6, 7, and now I know here she's not going to attack again, and she's going to heal. And Verzik heals for double the HP of these crabs. So essentially, in other words, what that means is if the red crab has half of your max hit, it's worth to hit it. If it has less than half your max hit, you should hit Verzik instead. However, as a learner, I would recommend to just always kill the crab. It's just so much easier, and it's still beneficial for your team. But once you get better, you can start offing the crab. In this case, for example, we're going to skip. So we're going to off the crab and try to kill Verzik. Oh, that was a weird lag spike. I didn't like that. Now on P3. P3, basically, she does 4 basic attacks and a special attack. The special attacks goes from webs. And then afterwards, it's crabs, webs, and then yellows. And then finally, you have the green ball, and then it restarts. Now in this case, I'm tanking. A trick I could give you for tanking is you wait for it to attack, then you walk under, wait for it to attack, walk under, and you can also run away. Wait for it to attack, run under. I mean, here it's kind of unfair because I'm pretty much aware of the attack cycles. She attacks, I walk under. Now she's going to do her webs, so this is what you want to change to your trident. You can take this time to save the full. Use save the full, pot up again. Use augury. If you have a T-bow, you should be T-bowing here instead of tridenting. It's a little better. Here, I know I can do 2 whip hits. If you want to pass tank, the way you pass tank is you either run away from it like this until she passes her tank, or you can also just stand under her. You can also stand under her and wait for it to pass tank eventually as well. She'll pass tank after 2 or 3 basic attacks. So both those options would work. I'm not going to pass tank because it's a good practice. Now, when 20% health starts, she's gonna spawn NATOs, and she's gonna attack at a faster attack speed. So currently she attacks at 7 ticks. Now she's gonna attack with 5 tick intervals. So you can basically just trade 1 for 1 if you're using a whip. You'll lose a tick every attack cycle, but it's worth using the tick. I'm gonna die here. Oh, combo eat. See, I'm running away from her. She attacks, I attack her once. She attacks, I attack her once. Obviously, pass tank, at least for the first couple kill count, you should always be passing the tank. It's just so much easier for you and your team. Oh, this is not a good situation to be in. Now it's webs. I'm gonna hug walls again. I forgot the stamina earlier, so that was my mistake as well. I'm gonna go on the other side because I don't like that situation I'm in. I'm gonna try to save this guy. Nope. Okay. I might just tick eat this one if I don't make it in time. I made it in time. Oh. Oh, it hit me at 55. Okay. That's unfortunate. Poor Steve-O having to carry us. I mean, I did a melee there, but that was pretty unfortunate. There was so many heals and I got basically max hit. Oh, Steve-O take the Torva OP. I guess if I wasn't wearing Void, I would have probably tanked it. But or had better odds to tank it. I mean, this wasn't the best Verzik, but it's still decent, so at least I got to tank too. It's not easy tanking and talking at the same time. Unfortunately, no purples. I'm still gonna open the chest for you guys. Yeah, because my P3 damage was garbage, dude. Holy. So, I mean, this is the end of the... I did 4 ToBs in one sitting. Thanks to Steve-O. So, I hope you enjoyed. If you're watching this video, it's because you're probably learning ToB soon, so good luck on your learning ToB. It's one of the best contents in the game, in my opinion. So much fun, so much to learn. And it's just uphill from here, so good luck. If you ever see me in game and you want to ToB, let me know. I'm down to ToB. Until I finish the 2K cape, of course. And on that note, thanks for watching.